Looking through artworks from previous centuries, it would seem the beauty ideals we hold have remained unchanged for generations. Are there just some things that everyone finds attractive? Well, if that was the case, why don't we all look the same? Surely natural selection would favour the most beautiful among us until we all had perfect attributes. Sometimes a bit of uniqueness is what catches the eye. Humans like novelty, particularly, it seems, when it comes to attraction. Take beards, for example. The recent fashion for facial hair would imply that whiskered men do better in the dating market. However, a few years ago it was claimed we had reached peak beard. Beards would soon lose their appeal. So what happened? There was some evidence for peak beard. Barnaby Dixon, a psychologist, showed that women prefer men who stand out from the crowd. He showed some women mostly bearded faces and asked them to rate how attractive they found them. Other women were shown mostly clean-shaven faces and asked to do the same. Both groups were then shown the same mixture of stubbly, bearded, and smooth faces.
What happens is something quite interesting. If you were assigned to the group where you ranked only clean-shaven faces to begin with, then you gave significantly higher ratings for attractiveness to the bearded faces, whereas if you were assigned to rate all bearded faces, and you would then rank the clean-shaven faces most attractive. So you get these novelty effects. It's like, something different is being shown to me and it's appealing.
Seeking novelty, Barnaby says, is what has made us such a successful species. Natural selection favours a taste for the unique.
Natural selection at its core requires the ability to adjust and adapt to new environments as they're presented to you. If anything, that variation is critical for species survival and reproduction and movement and settling capabilities. Human beings might be an extreme example of that.
Our species' taste for the unusual extends not only to natural selection, but also our cultural choices. It's why we have fashions. But, like with beards, some things become less attractive the more popular they are. Take baby names. While some names are always relatively popular, names like Charlotte, Rebecca, James or Daniel, the popularity of a baby name can make it quickly become unpopular. Of the top 5 boys and girls names in the US in 2020, only Olivia and Emma for girls and Noah for boys feature in the top 40 baby names in the year 2000. None of those names appeared in the top 40 baby names in 1920. Names do come back in and out of fashion. Charlotte and Isabella were more popular in 2020 than in 1920. And Evelyn was almost as popular last year as it was 100 years ago. But none of those 3 names featured in the top 40 in 2000. This rotation between old and new names is an example of an anti-conformity bias cycle, according to evolutionary biologist Kaleida Krebs-Denton.
So an example could be 70% of individuals in one generation have an iPhone and 30% have an Android, but in the next generation, 70% have an Android and 30% have an iPhone. In the third generation, you're back to what you saw in the first generation, and so on and so forth. So every other generation, you reach the same frequency.
Anti-conformity biases might be another way of looking at our preference for the outlier, like the clean-shaven man in a room of bearded men, for example. Do we just like the fact they stand out?
If we're referring to biological fitness benefits, then anti-conformity might be beneficial when the more selectively advantageous variant is rare, which is not a great answer because it just raises the question, when is the more selectively advantageous variant rare? My speculation, although I have not modeled this, is that a situation like this might arise when the environment is constantly fluctuating and new beneficial variants are consistently arising due to innovation. On the other hand, benefits might not be biological. In that case, anti-conformity might be very useful in fields such as fashion, music, painting, dance, literature, where the intrinsic uniqueness is appreciated.
Maybe those anti-conformists among us are what made us the successful species we are today.